The lore surrounding Egregore is as baffling as it is fascinating. This entity is esoteric, with a vast and amorphous influence, which can vary significantly in design and intent. Be it evil, proper, protective, or destructive, an Egregore has a wide range of purposes. They are ever-watching forces of energy that can manipulate the minds of anyone under their sphere of influence, whether that person is aware of it or not. Egregores are autonomous psychic beings fed through willpower, focused desire, or mental energy from common cause between a group of people. Though that's just the majority, because there are also just Egregores that are associated with a single person. Some Egregores are no better than wild beasts in their intellectual nature. However, there are many more that are fully sentient and independent. An Egregore does not come into being without the generation of humans, but humans don't know that they give birth to Egregores. They're essentially dreamlike entities whose existence is alien to human comprehension, but they're essentially sentient living energy. The word Egregore comes from the Greek words Egregore and Egregore, and can also be translated to Gregory, which means watchman or watcher. And yes, if you speak Greek or are Greek, I know I totally butchered those pronunciations. Anyway, Egregores are mentioned 3 times in the apocryphal texts within Lamentations, Jubilees, and the Book of Enoch. These books were removed from the Bible by the Roman Emperor Constantine, but contain a lot of Christian beliefs not found in the mainstream scriptures. These entities form naturally from a group of people who all come together for a common cause. Though their birth does come from the mental energy of groups, they do so independently from conscious human awareness. If there is an organization, political party, club, religion, or anything concerning a group of people coming together for a specific reason, then there is an Egregore for that group. Even just small groups of friends have Egregores. There is no organized group of people that does not have one of these entities attached to it. As such, people connect to a plethora of Egregores during their lives that pull their strings unconsciously. The influence of Egregores isn't necessarily a bad thing, because they're not outright evil, having just as many moral shades of gray as people, but it can be a bad thing in certain circumstances. Egregores are known to attach themselves to inanimate objects as well. They are not limited in what they cling to in the physical realm, but are mostly attached to places of worship, busy buildings, open squares of many people, or anywhere where there's really a lot of people or a lot of energy going on. But they're also known to dwell in caves as well. These Egregores are usually renegade in some way, or are given birth in places of great psychic trauma by large numbers of people. And this type of Egregore can be any alignment from good to bad and anything in between. They slowly build up strength by influencing the people that come near their chosen location, though these types of Egregore are in great danger of starvation if they cannot adapt and influence the humans around them. And with this attachment to anybody that is in their sphere of influence, you may be wondering if one can tell that an Egregore is influencing them or not. Well, there is a way to tell, but it's not easy most of the time. The vibe and psychic impressions of an Egregore are so common and ordinary that people interact with them daily without even realizing it. Maybe when we were much younger, it was easier to tell, but as we get older, encountering a strange Egregore is basically just as normal as the wind blowing on one's skin. It's there, but so what? The wind is always blowing. It's only really noticeable if it's so intense that it becomes annoying, or something like that. But the majority of Egregores are so subtle that they're challenging to notice. Then again, basically all people have walked into unfamiliar places and been overwhelmed with a sudden change of energy. There's many people who don't realize this consciously, but then again there's many who do, and it is a sudden shift from one's current emotional state usually, be it negative or positive emotion or even dread. This sudden feeling or change in inner equilibrium is a phenomenon that is pretty much is an unexpected interaction with an unfamiliar egregore. Since egregore manipulate those associated with them through the unconscious, it can be hard to detect ordinarily. Egregores are invisible forces that influence the psychology of people connected to them. They are the vibe or energetic personality that develops from a group. This group mind is separate from the individual members of its affiliated community and grows and expands on its own. They can be mindless, but an egregore can also be very focused and intelligent. If you've ever felt different all of a sudden entering an old building or populated area with a particular history, that's an egregore tugging at your psyche. Some egregores can suck people in and cause them to start self-destructive habits, and then influence the person to go deeper and deeper into them, such as drug addiction or alcohol dependence. These egregores will feed off the negative energy to sustain them, but will eventually die out if they cannot connect to new sources of mental energy. According to occult lore, egregores can be bargained with to grant certain boons, such as material gain, fame, or desires. But whatever it gives comes with a cost, because the egregore will seek domination over the person that can last beyond the grave. However, the majority of egregores have incredibly short lifespans, because new ones require consistent mental waves from their creators to survive and grow. Unfocused or weak psychic emanations from the group that birthed them will leave the egregore unstable. In the case of young groups of friends or fledgling clubs and whatnot, weak egregores are typical, but these fragile egregores are not to be underestimated. The group culture that birthed the egregore will still influence the people it's associated with to conform to the overarching beliefs of the group. This is why so many young people have certain morals and outlooks that seem to quickly die the instant that they join a group of friends. The psychic tentacles of the egregore basically just force their way into the psyche of a person like a spider web, changing the very nature of their consciousness. It's one of the reasons why sometimes in life when you run into somebody that seems to think things as self-evident objective truths, but to you they are ridiculous and false, because you have no connection to their egregore and are free of their psychic dogma. Certain types of egregores created from incredibly disciplined and spiritually advanced groups can become incredibly powerful. They are generated with an abundant, energized astral form and take on the image of godlike beings in many cases. Throughout history, many gods and goddesses were indeed egregores. These entities can be called upon and granted associated group assistance in a variety of spiritual matters. Egregores grant protection, support in spiritual development, opening someone up to astral currents of spiritual energy or giving them answers to questions by digging it up from their subconscious. These entities have a variety of abilities we would consider to be supernatural. And these specifically made powerful egregores from groups of spiritually powerful people just get more and more powerful, even though they already started off as like tier 1. They grow and grow to the point where many become full-blown religions. Egregores associated with religion or other such spiritual ideologies can be called upon for protection and defend against spiritual entities or, I guess, paranormal entities, you name it. They're just as powerful as any entity, or more in some cases, even like praying for them to fight evil spirits and the like, or cleanse areas of negative energies, or guide them through difficult life situations. With these super powerful egregores, and sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between an egregore and a real divine entity. But though they may take on more recognizable forms that we would associate with god beings or whatever, an egregore's true form is just a vast, amorphous entity that's just like a big blob throughout space-time. humanity's beyond ancient past, the most potent egregores have also become archetypes of human consciousness. These archetypes exist inside humanity's collective unconscious. And if you're familiar with Carl Jung psychology, many of the archetypes that influence nearly all human actions were indeed egregores, but have kind of grown to become something far greater. And it's these archetypes that communicate to people through stuff like tarot cards and whatnot. In fact, a lot of the symbolism in the tarot decks are indeed archetypes communicating. It's hard to explain. This last bit that I'm talking about is mostly just occult lore from certain occult circles and not the more mainstream egregore stuff, but it's still fascinating. The best way to comprehend how egregores work, and even this way to imagine it, is very limited and not how they really are. But the best way to imagine that we can understand how they work is think of all of existence, think of the entire universe, think of all, like if there's a multiverse or, the many worlds theory in physics, whatever. Think about all of existence just being one giant mind. Matter, everything is just mind. So in essence, though we see things as distant and separated, if everything's all connected with the same thought energy, there is no separation. So yes, an archetype can communicate with you directly by drawing a stupid card made of paper with some art on it. Because from this point of view, you are also a thought form, a thought being, just like an egregore. In fact, everything is. Anyway, there's also some real-world study on stuff that's associated with egregores to an extent. In the book, The Crowd, a study of the popular mind, written by Gustave Le Bon in 1896, the Frenchman goes into great detail about his research into human behavior. He was the original people watcher. Gustave spent an insane amount of time analyzing human interaction and came to many fascinating conclusions. He found it telling how an ordinary person can appear to have solid morals and independent thought and ideals. However, when that person joins a crowd, they lose a part of themselves and change to conform to the group thought, such as good, upstanding people committing atrocities without noticing their horrific actions. Look back in history. This is much more common than you would believe or anyone would like to believe. The herd mentality can take over and temporarily change the very way that a person looks at the world. The passion of egregores has led to countless genocides and atrocities. People outside the group say, "How did this happen? No normal human is capable of that evil." Yet, the darker nature of humanity is revealed that a person can be a kind and generous member of society at one moment, and an Auschwitz guard killing innocent civilians the next. Those in the know can use these dark egregores to manipulate weak-minded groups of people to follow their will mindlessly. Those under the influence of the egregore will be unable to see other people's points of view and comprehend the world, basically in black and white, to what the entity desires based on polarized points of view, robbing them of objectivity. It's one of the reasons why many people who think that they are trying to better the world, they know the best, they're trying to make everything better, they're deluded to think that they're the good guys, their side are the good guys with no nuance, but they're actually assholes making everything worse. Once attached to an egregore, the group mind will always tax the person in some way. This tax is not always bad, but one should not join the energy of an egregore carelessly, because some are hard to detach from and many are indeed very bad. Usually, while detaching away from an egregore, hiding in the influence of another egregore is the best way to detach from one. They just have to differ enough for there to be a conflict between the two psychic entities, and similar in strength. Egregores exist in an undefinable etheric existence, but are present in both the material and spiritual worlds, while also influencing through the collective unconscious on the mental plane. They can actually take physical form on the astral plane and seem to visually manifest before a before one of the people attached to it in certain situations. Esoteric groups can create powerful egregores and interact with them as one would a god or goddess in the days of old. Whether one is aware or not of the existence of egregores, it's very seductive to get caught up in the morals of the entity or the emotions that drive it. It's tough to resist once connected to it, and anyone new to the group can get swept away in its energy, changing their very outlook on life entirely and making them obsessed with whatever the egregore is focused around. Ever had that annoying friend that got super into some new enlightening religion or philosophy and never shut up about it? Yeah, that friend is totally high on the egregore. Becoming caught up in the passionate hatred or love an egregore emits can be hard to resist. The more organized and focused the group, the stronger the egregore. It will grow along with the group while influencing the psyche of all those associated with the entity. In certain situations concerning occult orders, egregores can be purposely empowered through ceremonies and rituals. These egregores are arguably the most powerful and can open up a gateway to the mysteries, aligning initiates to the mystic current of the secret society. In doing so, the egregore can greatly increase the spiritual and psychic development of the individual to help awaken esoteric powers within them. But these egregores always come with a cost that some might not want to pay if they were aware of it. One thing that separates a person with awareness to that of just another member of the collective is knowing the existence of egregores, which allows them to not be influenced by the entity if they don't want to. Association with any organization, club, or group automatically opens one up to the influence of the reigning egregore, and not getting caught up in its will can be very beneficial. Doing so is the only way to defend yourself against this group mind entity, because they can't really be defeated or destroyed unless starved of the energy that sustains it from the group. Egregores are so vast, they are connected to everyone on the planet associated with its group mind all at the same time.